Hello, Diaspora. How you all doing today? We have a very exciting and insightful interview lined up for you today. We have one of the leaders in the diaspora space, academically and intellectually, on our program today. He is none other than Dr. Senayo. Is one of us from Lagos State, Badagry, and I'll let him introduce himself in detail.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sanwo-Olu, and thank you once again for inviting me to this program. My name is Senayo Olaoluwa. I am the head of Diaspora and Transnational Studies Unit at the Institute of African Studies, University of Ibadan. Prior to joining the University of Ibadan in 2013, I had worked with the Osun State University from 2009 to 2013. Prior to that time, I had trained in the humanities with specific disciplinary focus on African literature at the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, South Africa. And then my PhD dissertation was on the politics of exile in African poetry. And, you know, exile being an aspect of diaspora studies. Much earlier, I had trained for my master's in English at the University of Ibadan. And yes, I had my first degree from the then Ogun State University, where I read English, graduating as the best student. I guess that's all I can say for now. So you'll lead me on to other questions, and I hope so far that answers your question.
Absolutely. Those are right answers and good answers too, sir. So we appreciate your commitment and dedication towards knowledge acquisition, and your track record of academic exploits, you know, is one that's becoming legendary in the Nigerian diaspora academic sphere. We know that you are also a visiting fellow at the African Studies Center in Oxford University. That is quite an accomplishment, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for the kind words. Yes, at the moment, I am what we call an APOX Fellow, Africa Oxford Initiative Fellow for 2023 and 2024. It is indeed a prestigious fellowship, and I am extremely thrilled to be so awarded. My research during this period is to further my investigation of the diaspora and migration theory I have termed extagia. And basically, what I have been trying to do is to think through the trajectory of migration, especially using the strand of nostalgia. I mean, to begin with.
Nostalgia.
Yes. And I discover, for instance, that there is what we can refer to as mobility bias, because there is a lot of ascription of power to migration. Mobile people, or do we even say mobility itself, tends to be constructed in power in relation to immobility, so that it is those who go away, it is those who migrate, it is those who are in constant movement,
yes,
that tend to have what I call, or tend to be the people we invest with narrative agency. So they talk about their experiences, they talk about their travails and triumphs far away from home, far away from, you know, familiar terrains, and then we ultimately declare them heroes. To the extent that even when they return home, we are not still able to understand what those they meet at home have gone through. because we will only hear about them still through the narrative of the returning migrants, exiles, cosmopolitans and all. And that is, for instance, the whole idea of the concept of homecoming. So that when you pick up a narrative around homecoming, or what is increasingly becoming homegoing, it is still going to be through the lens of those who migrate, those who travel, those who are mobile. In the process of it, we have repressed, for almost 400 years, what those we leave behind, they stay at home, go through. And so, looking at the kind of attention, critical and theoretical, including empirical attention we have paid, to the life of migrants, especially through the insights drawn from the whole idea of nostalgia, I then began and still continue to interrogate that sort of hegemonic consideration, arguing that overall migration experience, diaspora experience is better seen as a spectrum having two ends, so that you don't just continue to talk about people who migrate, who go away in vacuum, in disconnection from where they came
from. Coming from.
Exactly.
And those who they leave
behind. And we say they are going through nostalgia. They remember home, they remember the time past, they remember the people they live at home. And in the process of that,
yes,
we strip those in the homeland of the what I call sentient agency. It's like they have no feelings. They feel
that they are not part of this process.
They feel nothing for the people that go away. They are not affected by the people who go away. And so I argue that extagia is about the consideration of the peculiar suffering and creativity that are, those forms of, suffering, trauma,
experiences,
stress and creativity associated with and predicated on the dispersion of loved ones into other lands.
Very true, sir.
Yes. What do people feel, when their loved ones are about to go away or are gone away? And that is why, broadly speaking, I say we have to look at extagia from two perspectives.
Correct.
I call pre-departure extagia and post-departure extagia. The word extagia itself, I have coined by going back to some etymological understanding using the Greek linguistics. Now,
as a linguistic yourself.
Yes, and so we may as well begin, for instance, with the notion of nostalgia.
Correct, sir.
Nostalgia is a combination of two Greek words, nostos, which means home, and algos, suffering. Now, in 1688, thereabouts, a medical researcher, I think a doctoral medical researcher in Switzerland, conducted his investigation on the mysterious pathological condition of Swiss soldiers sent abroad to fight.
Okay.
Now, these soldiers began to fall ill and die, not from combat, but from they are being cut away from the homeland. And that is why generally nostalgia is defined as homesickness. They are sick for not being at home. So nostos and algos, nostalgia. And so I have then coined extagia by looking at the idea of X as speaking to exile, exodus, exit, if you like. That takes care of the X. The algia is from argos, suffering, meaning some kind of suffering that is predicated on the dispersion or dispersal of loved ones away from home.
They're exiting, the suffering associated with the exiting. Wow.
Exactly. The X is about, it's drawn from that Greek notion of X, being about exit, going away, and all that, the whole idea of the Exodus and all that. And algia from algos, which is suffering. Now, a suffering that is predicated on,
that
the
exit,
dispersal of your loved ones into other lands. And I have said, broadly speaking, there is what I call pre-departure extagia and post-departure extagia. I'm sure you must have experienced this. Sometimes somebody, maybe a friend, a relation you bond with, will be traveling next week and you're already depressed because he's going away. And this happens to us time and again. And we just try to describe it, but we have not named it.
Correct.
And this is extremely important.
It is.
In that published work, in one of the topmost diaspora studies journals, the title of the journal itself is Diaspora, a journal of transnational studies, published by the University of Toronto Press.
Yes, sir.
You're going to discover that these things happen, but we only try to describe them and we are not able to name them, and yet they continue to happen to us. Do we really care about what those we leave behind go through? If we do at all, the attention paid to that in migration studies, in diaspora studies, is minimal.
Minimal, absolutely.
Almost to the extent of,
non-existent.
being negligible.
Yes.
And then we keep on talking about, nostalgia, what happens to them when they go away, the suffering, how they fight hard to, and we keep on celebrating them. But like I said, it's a spectrum, and we cannot be, exploring migration in vacuum, in disconnection from where they're coming from.
Their location, their emotion.
Yes, exactly. So what extagia does is to grant, if you like, narrative experiential agency to those at home and to begin to see migration also through their lens. Now, I was talking and every time I try to relate, share this idea of extagia with everybody, can say, "Oh, I can relate." Some time ago, a lady was, telling me about what happened to her after she saw her daughter to the airport. The daughter was going to Ghana to study, just Ghana here.
Just Ghana.
And then she said, this lady, she took her to the airport and she flew down, and then she drove back to her apartment, and for 4 days she couldn't come out of her room. She didn't know what happened to her. She lost it completely.
Wow.
She couldn't
explain it. She couldn't define it.
She couldn't wrap her head around it. Now, what's happened to me? I am depressed. For days. This girl is gone. But she had no word to define it. She couldn't... And then when I met her, I said, yes. This is it.
This is extagia.
Extagia.
Wow. This extends even beyond just diaspora and transnational studies.
Exactly. Yeah.
It gets into psychology, and all that.
And that is why in the article, from the abstract to the conclusion, I invite other scholars across different fields, including the medical field.
Yes, correct.
To begin to engage the practical import of extagi in psychology, in medicine, and all. Now, I'll give you an example to look at the medical dimension. And do not forget, nostalgia began as a medical term.
Correct.
In one of the novels I used in the illustration of this initial reflection, Helen Habila's Measuring Time. There is the case of a lady, of a character called Pandi. Pandi is a young lady whose frail little younger brother, Haruna, is conscripted to go and fight in the Nigerian Civil War. Every day, the big sister wakes up and remembers that her little, frail, innocent brother is conscripted into the army. She breaks down. She continues to, suffer depression. Correct. Until Pandi peters out, literally. She falls into depression, is unable to, come out of it, snap out of it, and she dies. That's before the return of Haruna from the war. Now, look at how that constitutes some sort of parallel to the sweet soldiers in the late 17th century, dying because not, being at home. Now, Pandi has died from the suffering that is predicated on the conscription of his younger brother
being away from home.
Taken away from home.
Wow.
Another colleague was telling me when I began to share this with them, they said, now I'm going to speak pidgin. She just responded by saying, "Not be waiting kill my mama be that."
Oh, wow.
Your mom said, my brother traveled to Australia and didn't return. And every day my mom would say, this son of mine went to, it's her first son.
It's real. It's real.
This son of mine went to Australia and will not return. Okay. And repetition is a symptom of trauma.
Trauma, yeah, exactly. The pain. Yes. Reliving it, experiencing
and the mom,
it.
Now we're already into clinical psychology and medicine. Now,
correct.
And the mom will keep on repeating that in the process of that everyday repetition of my son went to Australia and has refused to return, the mother literally fell into depression and died.
Wow.
These things are real.
It is.
Now, we then need a network, support system. Yeah, we need a support system to take care of, to attend to people who are about to be left behind.
Correct.
We take people for clinical counseling, clinical psychology counseling, before the dispersion of their loved ones into Europe, America, everywhere. We don't do that in this part of the world. And this has become necessary because, because extagia is real and has implications for people's
mental health,
of those we leave behind. A colleague who is a an associate professor of pharmacy in the US was telling me a few days ago, as a way of reinforcing the logic of extagia, that in the US military right now, if you are away in the field, you cannot, while being away, divorce your wife, because the wife you leave behind in the homeland is already going through a lot. Already suffering extagia.
Exactly.
But you want to demonstrate a certain level of sensitivity to her condition for being left behind. And so it's like what I'll call the extagic turn, we have, since this late 17th century, we have been talking about nostalgia in relation to migration. Can we begin to look at, look at the other side of it, which is, extagia,
correct.
in relation to migration, and see, so it's it's also an ethical turn in migration studies.
It's a powerful term. It's a powerful addition to
previously, it's like we're saying, oh, those we leave behind do not matter, but now they do matter. And how do we, take care of that? And as I argue, in that theory, you see that extagia has this capacity of creating what I call a vicious circle of migrancy, because your loved one is away, you long to see them. In no time, you may be compelled to also engage in another journey, in the process of which not everybody will leave, not everybody will move. So you then move and leave some other people at
behind.
home,
So
living and for
an ending
that
cycle, yeah.
And you may also go and not be able to return immediately. And for some others, it puts them in this precarious condition of migrancy. So I met while I was at the University of Oxford during my fellowship, I had an interaction with a colleague from Ghana who was also on the fellowship. And he tells me, no, I can relate to your theory. Incidentally, he's a medical doctor, he's a medical scholar, and he says, this is right now the situation of my family with respect to our mother. So he said, the war broke out in the 90s in Sierra Leone, and all the four of us, all the four children, got scattered all over the world. So he found himself in Ghana, another person in Australia, yet another brother in the UK, and a fourth one in the US or Canada. And he says, the mother now has to travel around the year.
So, sir, I want to ask something, or if I need to continue, is that this, as you said, is psychological, is medical, and it's about humanity, and there's this diasporic element towards it. There's also that part of feeling that causes that nostalgia, that people will feel that they've been abandoned, they've been left behind. If they have a brother or a sister that has gone so far and it's not responding to them or is not connecting with them. I'm just looking at way back in those the ancient times whereby they will go, they'll have a feeling of neglect. Is that part of what you found in your research?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Some of those who go away for one reason or the other may not even be able to reconnect. Right. And that becomes some kind of double jeopardy for those they leave behind. I'll illustrate with some of the texts I have cited in that theoretical, articulation. Say George Lamming's In the Castle of My Skin. There is this central hero, a child narrator as well, whose name is Boy G. He gains consciousness to discover that it's just a mom alone. His father is gone away until the end of that novel. The father does not return.
Wow.
It makes the mother, a generally sad personality. You find a similar instance in another British Caribbean text, Small Island by Andrea Levy, whereby you find Celia's mom, losing it literally, becoming a psychopathic patient, precisely because, she is not able to show to her daughter, her grown daughter, who her real father is, because the father has gone away, left before the daughter could gain consciousness. And it pushes her to that, to that age of
Psychotic age,
if you
yeah.
like, dementia,
Mm.
and mental breakdown,
Mm.
whereby just any man she finds can just pass for Celia's father. And one day during the Second World War, young soldiers being recruited, trying to, observe their parade, and this woman is out on the street with her grown daughter, and suddenly points to one of the young guys. She said, Celia, that's your father. That's your father. That's your father. And it's embarrassing at the parade.
Wow.
Because, all the other soldiers, burst into laughter, seeing that the guy she's pointing to
He's almost
is
our age
too
mate.
young.
Too young.
Yeah, he's too young to be the father, because it's probably the age mate of the daughter.
Daughter,
And that's what that's to tell you
it
about
affects the psyche,
immensity
the
of,
mind.
yes, of
Yes.
trauma, and
It's
all
a real
that. But
experience,
again, that takes us to the other side, to extagia.
Okay, sir.
The fact that not all the people we leave behind remain trapped in their trauma. So extagia is not only about suffering,
It's
it's not only
negative, it's how they
about trauma.
cope with it.
It is also about creativity, transcendence. The people then take very, very
adapt to it,
creative,
ways,
coping ways out of
mechanisms,
suffering. Like Boji's, mother in The Castle of My Skin, her own inventive, and creative way of taking care of her abandonment is to make up her mind that even when in this community, 10 out of children sent to elementary school, and 9 out of children sent to elementary school will drop out, I will ensure that this only son of mine will not drop out. And then at high school level, it's a similar story. And she says, this son of mine must do well. That is her own kind of creative response to her abandonment.
Must do well here.
Yes,
and
by the end of the novel, this boy has done so well that he gets an international offer at the end of the novel.
He has to go too. So that repetition cycle.
So extagia, in essence, is not only about suffering, it is also about creativity, the capacity to transcend the suffering, to be able to live their lives, and that is extremely important. And it becomes some sort of metaphor, for how we begin to explore the creative coping strategies of the people who are left behind in the homeland or any other place within the broader discourse of migration.
Fantastic, Doctor, for this insightful elucidation of your points and your theory. It's really amazing. Now, I want to take us back a bit to the historic diaspora. How do we connect this experience of extalgia? Can we say maybe our forefathers experienced a form of extalgia, though they didn't know what it was then, and that has led to us always wanting, I know the economic factors and seeking greener pastures. Is that could that be a reason for we always longing for some to reach out to our lost ones, to reach out to those people in the diaspora, in the Caribbean islands, and all that? And I'm just trying to situate myself in that time frame whereby people were being taken on ships, enslaved, and how they were experiencing all that. Did your research connect those dots, or what can you talk to us about that, what we in Africa experience, and the nostalgia, if it does exist, by those in the islands and our American, our diaspora brothers and sisters scattered around the world?
Absolutely. My research on extagia is two-pronged. There is the theoretical part of it that I am pushing right now. Once I'm done with that, we're going to move on to the empirical dimension to it. And one area of concentration will be the understanding of the Badagry Diaspora Festival, for instance. I have been interacting with the organizers of this event, and it was amazing what led to the establishment of the festival in the first place. So as one of the founding members told me, he said, you know what, can you see the lagoon? That every day the lagoon reminds us of the millions of people that were moved through this lagoon. And he said, we are talking about fellow Black people moved across this lagoon to the other side of the peninsula, and then finally to the Atlantic Ocean.
The lagoon is a
So,
reminder.
so the entire Badagry community goes through that
extalgia
every
day,
which creates some sense of what I call vicarious guilt. Oh, somehow our forefathers too were involved, you know, in how these people were moved. Because he told me in Badagry, during the centuries of the slave trade, it was not possible for you to be neutral in the trade. Otherwise, you'll be sold out. You'll be sold literally down the river. I mean, somebody. I mean, you have a
you have to choose one side.
Yes, you have a disagreement with your neighbor, and he comes to your door the following day and tells you, you know what? I promise, next tomorrow is the slave market, and I promise to sell you down. Can you see the lagoon? I will sell you down the river, and you'll be gone forever. So you just had to be aggressive. You just had to participate one way or the other, even when generally there was some kind of agreement between the slave masters, slave traders, and the Badagry people that, oh, Badagry people would not be slaves. But the entire community became like the marketplace.
Place for it. So they had that guilt that is attached to it.
Exactly. So people were moved from the hinterland, from Hausa land, from Igbo land, from, you know, Yoruba land, and everywhere, Badagry and all. And but in the end, they are all Black people. So that communal longing, that communal extagia, trauma, was then what informed the establishment of the Badagry Diaspora Festival. To do what? For them, even if now the real slave
to atone in a way,
no longer return, because that happened several centuries ago, at least their descendants can return. If only momentarily.
Yes, exactly.
And then we'll be like reconciled to them.
Yes, reconciled.
And
let them know we love them.
Badagry Diaspora Festival is not just about, oh, the members of the historic diaspora coming home and being excited. Even the organizers, you know, so it's a kind of annual purgation, communal purgation of emotion, some kind of rites of purgation, you know, for them.
Because we focus so much on the nostalgic element of it,
exactly,
and not this nostalgia, because we're feeling. What are those in the diaspora, the historic diaspora? What are they feeling? You know, the sense of identity, not knowing that those at home, they were kind of like forced. They couldn't be in the middle ground. They had to choose a side in what happened then. They also were victims of circumstance, and it heals them by their return too, as much as it heals those returning.
And with the Badagry Diaspora Festival, we can talk about the literal you know, exemplification of the interface of nostalgia and extagia. Yeah, absolutely.
And symbols
for those left behind in the homeland, and for those dispersed.
Yes. And in Badagry, we now have the lagoon as a symbol of extalgia.
Exactly. You know? Exactly.
Wow. This is really deep, sir. It's really deep and very emotive, and I really celebrate you for you know, going into the heart of the matter and understanding this diasporic experience. It's no surprise, you being a Badagrian yourself, a Lagosian, you know, you've experienced, you've lived it, you've seen it, and we're so proud of you. And this will, I'm sure we could spend another 1-2 hours discussing about extalgia, because you are really passionate about it. And even I'm
Absolutely.
going to be looking more into it and the material that you put out. Let's now segue into how this, your international acclaim, your research, from Toronto to Oxford to Ibadan, South Africa, this international coalition of knowledge and ideas that you have now. And this has now led to the setting up of University of Ibadan Diaspora Research and Research Center. And I believe Honorable Abike Dabi recently said one or two things about that and the kind of money that you got from the government to establish. Can you just tell the world about this success story too?
All right. This story about the TED Fund grant for the establishment of what in the government circle is understood as a center of excellence for diaspora studies. It's something that began just about the same time the program, Diaspora and Transnational Studies program, a postgraduate program at the Institute of African Studies at the University of Ibadan, was established. That was in 2013. And I think the approval for the curriculum must have been issued by the University Senate in 2012. And then by 2013, the University of Ibadan had hunted me from the Osun State University to start the program. And so, you know, like maybe 10 years ago, the program kicked off, kind of, but the real teaching began 9 years ago in 2014. So hopefully we are planning to celebrate 10 years of teaching and researching diaspora studies sometime next year.
Yeah.
But for the background to that program is the fact that, you know, in its characteristic trailblazing manner, the University of Ibadan had intentionally, you know, established that program as a decisive response, a decisive positive response to the AU's declaration of the diaspora as Africa's sixth region.
Wow.
And that was in 2003.
Correct, sir.
And so our program, you know, in itself, it's like the first of its kind on the African continent.
Wow.
Our graduate program in Diaspora and Transnational Studies. And, you know, I mean, that should be expected because the University of Ibadan is known for being the first in so many good areas.
Things, yeah.
And so we kicked off with the program, you know, teaching itself in 2014. And by 2016, we had produced our first set of master's students. And one of the dissertations in that set was shortlisted for the prestigious Africa Thesis Award in the Netherlands.
Wow.
And then, you know, we kept on pushing. And that for us was particularly thrilling because it had a way of affirming us. It had a way of, if you like, you know, speaking to our integrity, to the integrity of the program. I mean, as a research program. And by, you know, the time we produced the third set, a thesis in that set won the prize, brought the prize home outright.
Wow.
You know, you know, for an incredible research on oath taking and the transnationalism of silence among those sex workers in Italy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a deep topic.
Oh, yes, it is. I mean, by then Cynthia Asegeme, who is now Cynthia Olufade, she's currently at an advanced stage of her PhD at the University of Alberta in Canada. Still continue, you know, in that same area. And so by late 2021 or thereabouts, another member of the fifth set competed for a migration prize based on her thesis at the University of Oxford. And he was a co-winner. And it was like wow, Oxford. He said, yes, Oxford.
Yes.
Because I have always told my students, what we teach and what you research should compare with what is possible in Oxford and Cambridge, in Harvard and Yale. I mean, it's something, they'll,
Think globally,
yeah, they will
international
all,
standard.
yeah, they will always hear me say, and so, and when we say one work is good, we mean it is
It's
good
good.
globally. Yeah, and then, about 2 years ago, we produced our first PhD. By the time we produced the second PhD the following year, that second PhD won the International Ramon Bello Prize, Best PhD Thesis Prize.
Wow.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, and there were competitors from the whole of Africa, and
Africa. Wow.
we even had competitors from Europe. So that's the kind of profile we have been able to build for ourselves, and we are still doing more. And we also try to ensure that, even regarding recruitment, we bring in only the finest. I mean, another colleague we have recruited now is Dr. Kudus Adebayo, who did his research, his doctoral research on Nigerians in China. And he's been such a fantastic scholar. And I remember that by the time he was done with his PhD thesis, then he also won the Raman Bello, prize. So we have generally award-winning scholars working with us to produce equally award-winning, students. And so that's like,
of course, they are led by an award-winning theoretical
well,
framing
I mean, what do I
doctor
know?
and soon to be professor
I am
emeritus
still
like
aspiring to
yourself.
be a scholar.
Ah,
And yeah,
you've done well on that.
and then as as we proceeded in the course of training our students, we were able to reach out again through one of our students, Mr. Rahman Balogun, to Madam Abike. We invited her for a distinguished public lecture at the Institute of African Studies, and hosted by our Diaspora and Transnational Studies program. That was way back in 2015. Wow. And so that first meeting with her, marked the beginning of an enduring relationship, an enduring collaboration, whereby we began to think about, through her initial suggestion, how to establish a diaspora resource center. And as we continued in our cross-fertilization of idea, we reviewed that to become, a diaspora resource and research center, conceived of to be a flagship diaspora center on the African continent, that will cater to, all issues relating to what these days we refer to as global Africa. If you like, global Africa diaspora, global Africa affairs, and so the collaboration which you have been part of, Shemaine,
Gladly part of.
I remember when we were together in Abuja for the Focal Points, conference shortly before COVID, and we have continued to do several things together, sometimes with NITCOM, even traveling together, to other parts of the world. I mean, I remember was it in 2019, late 2019, a representative from NITCOM and I, were in the AU for a diaspora summit on the role of the African diaspora in higher education on the continent. And so, having put that sort of idea together, the University of Ibadan became extremely impressed. And you know, the university will always identify excellence when it
Correct.
spots one. So such an excellent idea then got the nod of the university during the tenure of Professor Olaoluwa, who approved a parcel of land for the establishment of the center, and then we began to work together with the university, and you know, later the presidency through the office of the senior special advisor to the president on foreign affairs and diaspora, during which, for instance, we consulted you know, the program, you know, more or less led the conversation around the formation of the Nigerians in diaspora policy, you know,
Policy.
so
Correct.
and all that. We did all that together, then making our input, because our program is established to you know, facilitate an interface between, you know, academia and you know, policy formulation and implementation, which is, you know, part of what we do, and which is part of what the center will do and advance as we progress. And so during the administration of our current Vice Chancellor, Professor Kayode Debowale, so we got the institutional support, which is like, you know, UI is always able to maintain that continuity in excellence.
Correct.
You know,
Yes, sir.
yeah, you know, for the establishment, you know, for support from TED Fund, and here we are today. We have received $1 billion to construct the center. And,
That's amazing.
Yes, and then we looking forward to another tranche to commence a 10-year research from TED Fund on what we call decriminalizing the global Nigerian diaspora.
Decriminalizing.
So, decriminalizing the global Nigerian diaspora. I mean, when you mention Nigeria,
that's amazing.
You know, abroad, what comes to people's mind? Oh, those guys are criminals. How do we tackle that? And
well, that's amazing.
Yes, and we are doing a lot more. You know, because our plan is to also ensure that we are able to identify and you know, utilize other sources of funding. You know, as we reach out to funders from everywhere.
For that, yes. And that will involve a lot of perception management, public relations, communications, reorientation.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be taking the research to the world. And I'm really looking forward. You know, many of you may not know, but I also am just completing a master's degree in diaspora and international studies at the UI too. And Dr. Senayo is also my boss there too. I'm a lecturer. So it's been a great experience, and moving forward is going to be even wonderful too. You know, I can't wait for this aspect of it to commence, because I love communications and all that. So this is the direction that we ought to be moving in as Nigerians, and I'm so glad that under your leadership and the leadership of Honorable Abike Dabe, the chairman and CEO of NIDCOM, this is coming to fruition. Even under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is wonderful, sir. So you've said quite a lot of interesting, insightful, academic, and also relatable facts and based on your theories and your experiences and your feedbacks from your research. And I really appreciate your time on this program, talking to us about extalgia, talking to us about the TED Fund, and even right now about the what you're going to be doing in the future. We look forward to great things. What role do you feel the Nigerians and diaspora have to play in this time that we are going through some economic challenges globally? What are the opportunities that the diasporas can step into to help or to support the homeland from their host nations?
Like I must have taught in one of your classes, globally, we associate not being at home with abundance. And this is something that is inveterate. It's a long established knowledge, form of knowledge across the world. And I must say that the Nigerians in diaspora have been incredible in the way they have facilitated, if you like, what I'll call multiple remittances. So remittances are not just about money; they're about so many other, repatriation of different forms of capital, economic, social, political, for the enhancement of the homeland. And the least we can do is to continue to encourage the diaspora, but not in a but to also be conscious of or to also be wary of what I call the nihilist advocacy for return. Return is not only physical. Repatriation of remittances is also about a return, and so it shouldn't be one way. It shouldn't be one-sided. Otherwise, the diaspora will be overwhelmed. The ideal thing then is for both the homeland and the diaspora to come up with a mutually productive
and beneficial way
format, of relations whereby both the homeland and the diaspora are the better for it, as they interpret. And that's been my position all the time. And very soon there is a paper of mine that will be coming out on that. And it's not just about Nigeria, it's about how we relate with the entire African diaspora across the continent.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, Doctor. Because you've said it many times, and you've said it today again about associating those in the diaspora with abundance, their experience with abundance. But we know that even the remittances for the first half of this year reduced so much because the global economic climate has affected the ability of the diaspora to repatriate this kind of capital, these finances, these funds back home to them too. So things are changing, the experiences are changing, not like in the 60s or in the 70s or so. But we believe, as you've said, that it should be mutually beneficial, a win-win. So if they're going to repatriate, the government should make the environment conducive to do business. Let there be ease of doing business policies put in place so that they will with joy invest in their homeland to get a return, not just one that is stems from a philanthropic action, but one that stems from actually, I'm getting a good return on my investment in the motherland. And closing, a globally recognized figure when it comes to diaspora matters. If you had a chance to sit down with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu right now, what will you tell him regarding diaspora inclusion and how we can actually use the diaspora as a catalyst for change and development in our nation?
It then goes back to, I remember back in, was it 2017 or 18, we had a kind of validation workshop towards the adoption of the Nigerian diaspora policy. And I had to call the attention of stakeholders at the Ministry of International Affairs to the fact that we shouldn't make that mistake that so many other African nations have made, where they just say, oh, diasporans, Nigerians, oh, diasporans or Nigerian diasporans are those who are ready to, contribute to the development of the homeland. So when you say that, there is already something, suspect about the intention. The diaspora cannot be seen as a cow that we just milk and throw away. We need to sit down and reassure them. We need to put our cards on the table. We need to show show them the models. We need to
Yeah.
come up with a model,
Transparent. Yeah.
of relations and how at both ends. Do not forget, I was telling you earlier on about diaspora being, migration being about the spectrum. How do both ends, of the spectrum benefit from it? We still have a lot more to do, a lot more to discuss, a lot more, to consolidate whatever gains we have been getting from the diaspora, because we also need to ask ourselves, what can the homeland do for the diaspora? That, for me, is one model that we need to make constitutive of the entire conception of our diaspora relations.
Fabulous. So what can the homeland do for the diaspora?
Yes, it's not just about what can the diaspora do for the homeland.
Yeah,
absolutely.
so it has to be a win-win. I really like that. Thank you so much,
yes.
Doctor, for this insightful interview. And for those of you who have watched this whole clip, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure you share this video across all platforms. And we really appreciate the time of Dr. Senayo Olaoluwa for his insight that is brought to this program. This is Let's Talk Diaspora. Make sure you visit my website, jermainesonwolu.com, and follow me for more informative, inspiring diasporic content. Thanks a lot for watching.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hello, Lagos. Hello, Diaspora. Thanks a lot for watching this podcast. We usually give you very insightful interviews with key personalities, thought leaders, and people who have ideas that are worth sharing. Make sure you visit my website, Jermaine Sonwolu, for previous blog posts and articles and podcasts so that you can, be informed and inspired to take the next move in life. And today we're having a very, very insightful and inspiring person to share with us on some key concepts about the diaspora's role in sustainable economic growth in Nigeria and in Lagos. Today we're having Mr. Victor Lutenco. He's the head of the IOM sub-office in Lagos. That's International Organization on Migration. Very, very insightful personality. Done a lot of diasporic work in his home country and also around the world. Victor, how are you doing today?
Doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you much more for accepting the invitation. We know you're a very busy man and you're doing a lot of work in immigration and migration space in particular. Could you just give us a brief introduction for those who may not know you about the work you've done in times past and actually what you're doing right now, sir?
So now in Lagos, we are very much focusing on welcoming back home Nigerian migrants from abroad. So we have quite an extensive return programs, but we also do a lot of migration help that is connected to doing the health certification for the visa processes, the UK, United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Our labor migration and diaspora programs are focusing mostly on supporting the government with the diaspora strategy, with piloting some of the programs, mapping the diaspora, so doing these type of activities, but we hope to intensify this work in the future. Before coming to Lagos, I was in Mongolia, focused a lot on internal migration. That is, in my opinion, is increasingly important and interesting also in Nigeria because of the big movements that are happening, especially from the villages to the towns. And it's so important for Lagos, right? Lagos grew up exponentially, including because of the internal migration. I come originally from Moldova. This is where I've been working in and out quite consistently on migration issues. There, I also founded the Diaspora Relations Bureau, which is the government agency responsible for working with diaspora. And I've been also working with international organizations, IOM, UNFPA, consulting for UNDP, UN Women, and also had a quick political engagement also. I was a member of the what you would call here the municipal assembly in my capital city in Chisinau. So yeah, that's me. Quite enthusiastic about diaspora and the role that it can play in the development. I think in Nigeria in general and in Lagos in particular, diaspora might well be the biggest unexplored development opportunity.
Well, that is a very, very powerful and insightful statement. And I know that you're raring to go on and give us a breakdown on it. But I would like to commend the work you did in your country, talking about setting up that diaspora agency. And you said you have some work that you're doing when it comes to helping nations set up a diaspora policy. You mentioned a very important part about the diaspora reality that most people don't really talk about, the return of those who come back either voluntarily or involuntarily back to the country. Can you just, before we get to the economic development part of our discussion, that experience of people who are coming back and how the government or the nor the president has to put systems in place to be able to receive such people?
Well, let's separate first. The returns that we're doing now are mostly, recent migrants, those who were on their way, using the central Mediterranean route to go to Europe and got stuck in Niger, in Algeria, in Tunis, or Libya, and they want to return back, so we're helping them to return back, right? So that's one category, recent migrants, usually labor migrants. They need support, and we provide them support also on their route, but also after they come here to reintegrate so that they can restart, in their communities. Now, if we talk about the return of diaspora, it's a little bit of a different discussion, a little bit of a different discourse, because we talk about people who already created some connections, some social connections abroad, right? They started substituted what they have here back home with what they built abroad. Sometimes it's a family, right? Sometimes these are friends, colleagues at work, what we call a social network, right? So bringing them back to Nigeria is not an easy job. And sometimes I don't even think that it's something that we have to necessarily follow or necessarily push through, because let me give you another phrase. Many in diaspora can do for Nigeria much more from there than from here.
Wow, very interesting.
Again, many Nigerians can do much more for Nigeria being abroad than by staying at home.
Okay, how?
Because they are abroad, for some of their skills, they have more opportunity to develop, to leverage on their skills than here. Here, we're still developing this, right? There are many industries that are much more developed abroad than here. So by going there, they can do much more, even like, in elementary terms, like they can do there much more money. So they'll have much more in order to invest.
Resources to invest back, yes, correct.
To invest or to contribute as a charity. That's why I'm saying don't prioritize necessarily return, right? And then also, exactly as migration should never be a permanent thing or should never conceived as permanent thing. The fact that Nigerians are living from Nigeria, it doesn't mean that it's happening forever. And as a government, I think, and as an international, we should contribute towards helping people migrate only as much as it's necessary for their own development. And if at a certain moment they think that it's better to come back home, or it's better for them as individuals and it's better for the society, we should help them do that, right? Same, I think, with the return. Return shouldn't be conceived only in absolutist terms. Are you here or are you there? No, maybe, you can dedicate, how about 1 month per year?
True, very true, yeah.
If you are, for example, a super cool surgeon, right? You're making tons of money abroad, and
why would you come back fully here?
In order to use your skills, you need the equipment that it's hard to find here, right? So it's natural for you to be there. True. But for a couple of weeks, you can come back. Yeah. You can contribute in the meanwhile, work together with a hospital here.
Hospitals here, and
for example, Lagos Ministry of Health. Put together the equipment that is necessary and come here for a week or 2 weeks, do the surgeries, for example, for people who cannot afford.
Yes.
Exactly. At the same time, surrounded all around by students from the medical university who learn from you.
And the knowledge
So
transfer is taking place. Yes.
Exactly. So instead of just sending yourself back home, you are sending back home equipment, you are sending back home knowledge, you are sending back home money, you are sending back home, charitable support in the form of your work, right?
Absolutely.
Is it valuable? Extremely valuable. If you monetize all of that, if you look how much would it cost, it's a lot of money that he's sending back home. Except that it's in form of his own time, his own dedication, his own equipment that he facilitated, and so on. Now multiply it to fields like education, even security,
IT.
transport, tourism, IT, and so on and so forth. Because Nigerians are everywhere. We have to recognize that. There is no field in which Nigerians not just penetrated, right? But they are at the very high level
of it.
Of management and high professional level. Now, to me, the big challenge is not, or we haven't even go towards like calling them back. Let them stay there. Even the other way around. Let's support them to grow as much as possible where they are. Because the more they grow, the more they can give back.
Yes,
I think what we really have to focus on is on building these channels for them to
support,
give back,
to invest. Yes.
Let's go back to this example with the surgeon, right? Now, imagine he's in New York, right? He's doing his surgeries, from morning till evening. He's quite a busy person. He's also teaching, the usual thing. When do you think he has time to think about coming back to Nigeria, organizing his trip, getting in touch with the, executives, putting together all the details? When do you think he does this? Never. This is why it's not happening, right?
Well, that's true.
We have to put together a system in which we help with all the logistics, with all,
and they just step into it. Yes,
exactly, and we scale it up, right? We scale it up for 10, 20, 100 people, 100 hospitals, 100 teams, right? We set up a desk that is doing this 24/7. That's their job of capturing the support that come up from people like this, right? And then the only thing that they need to say is, I agree with this date. That's it.
And that's it. Just book your flights and come, rather than thinking what hospital, what time, what all that. That's a very, very valuable contribution, I must say,
Yeah, because this is how you capture. I think same is in business.
Yeah, and that moves us over to what you were talking about the economic impact the diaspora has to play in sustainable economic growth in Lagos and diaspora. You earlier said that Lagos in particular has a lot to benefit from us. Can you explain that?
Of course, because Lagos is, first of all, has sent so many people out, right? And this is connected also with the internal migration element that I talked about. There is one truth in migration: poor people don't migrate.
Poor people don't migrate.
Poor people don't migrate.
Okay.
Because in order to migrate, in order to go abroad, you need money.
Resources, true.
You need knowledge. You need preparation. That's why, and we saw it, what's happening is you don't migrate from villages in Nigeria. You move to a town, you move to a big city, you make some money, you make some connections, you understand and then you migrate internationally. That's why you would have a lot of people who went abroad from Lagos, because Lagos was kind of a springboard for them to go internationally.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right? So from this perspective, from the economic growth perspective, Lagos was definitely like the engine of economic growth, of individual economic growth for these people. Now, Lagos can also capture these opportunities coming from abroad, because if we are looking at diaspora as sources or subjects, promoters of investments, where do you have the best investment opportunities in the country?
Lagos. The fifth largest economy in Africa and the startup capital of Africa, Lagos, yes.
Here you go. And not necessarily just focused on Lagos, but having one foot in Lagos and then the other one in Abia or in Anambra or in some other places, right? You really have to be also in Lagos. That's why I think if we if we are contemplating how diaspora can invest back to Nigeria, then Lagos is kind of the heart of it, right? And I think that the initiative should be coming from Lagos. Now,
I really appreciate what you've said, about Lagos, first of all, being the springboard for migration, but also it can also be the starting point for reintegration. But we'll just have to put things in place to make it effective. So how do you suggest we do that? What are the baby steps we must take to make that happen?
Well, I will say maybe something that is not necessarily very popular, and maybe because what I felt like is happening a lot in Nigeria is we are looking at diaspora just as bags of money.
I love that.
And then
wow, that's a powerful statement you just made there. I'm sorry to cut you, but I had a meeting with someone and he said the exact same thing. That's Dr. Senayo Olaoluwa. He said that we should not see the diaspora as cows we just milk. So carry on. Yeah.
I think first of all, these are, I don't know, sources of inspiration for us. Yes, it's true. They're already sending $20 billion in remittances, right? These are money that are going most probably to those who need it the most. The remittances usually go in education, healthcare. They are something that are supporting the foreign exchange rate. They are supporting macroeconomically the country already. Yes, but the biggest question is not really what they already send, but is what they save, right? Because this is something that we want to tap into. But even more than that, let's suppose they have in savings, what, 100 billion, right? Do you think, I don't even think this is the most important amount we have to look at. These people, especially those high up, they know CEOs, they work with foreign companies, that if you put all those capitals together,
social capital,
they will dwarf anything that is remittances and anything that is savings.
Powerful.
So look at them not as primary investors, because these are peanuts. Look at them as a person who can introduce you, exactly, who can introduce you to that CEO, who can, make your connection to that investment opportunity. Look at them as ambassadors.
True. As valuable assets, arms, our feet there.
Exactly. And when you look at them as ambassadors, the first thing that you do, you take care of them. You ask them, how are you doing? What do you guys need? Maybe you need better consular services, right? Because you need documents, you need, different elements that are connected with your Nigerian citizenship. Maybe you need better, travel routes with Nigeria. Maybe you need better orientation here in Nigeria. Maybe you need better information, different things. The majority of them will say, I don't even want to hear about you. Valid point. Accept it. Many in diaspora, and again, maybe that's not something very popular, but it's valid not just for Nigeria, it's valid for any country. People leave not because of the positive feelings that they have about this country.
Yes.
Let's recognize it, right? So they stay with these negative feelings. Now, we have to face them when we get in touch with them. If first time they tell us, no, I don't want to hear about you, accept it. Come back after 1 month. Keep on insisting. In my political career, I had persons who told me in the face, diaspora are lost. And then in 5 years, they ran for the diaspora constituency and won it. So changed their opinion radically, right?
Wow, interesting.
So the only difference here is that we have to be consistent.
Consistent.
With diaspora, this is one of the keywords.
In engaging, connecting.
In order to receive, make sure first you give.
I love that.
Make sure you show that your engagement is a serious
genuine.
one.
It's true.
Exactly.
It's serious.
Exactly. And in order to, and these are investors, these are business people. If you want to create for yourself an image of a serious person, they want to see the money on the table.
Package it well. Yeah, you package yourself well. Yeah.
If you want to present yourself as a serious, person who's thinking about economic development, show your money, show your ideas, show
what you bring to the table, why you're a valuable investor or investment destination.
Exactly. And I think there will be a major response to that.
You know,
and
this,
you don't.
This is really, really insightful. What you're saying is a paradigm shift. It's not a popular thought pattern amongst us here. And because, you know, you are telling us, don't just see them as people there, Nigerians doing great things, but see them as ambassadors. And how will you treat an ambassador? You know, with prestige, with esteem. You will talk to them well. And you said see them also as investors. And you know, I treat diasporans as foreign investors. If we were to give foreign investors such good privileges, make things easier for them to invest, we have a whole system, a whole ministries to attract foreign investors. Why can't we also do the same thing for the diaspora? Our approach to them has just been, oh, they are there, they will come back, they will bring their money, but make Lagos, make Abuja, make Imo, make Akwa Ibom, make Ogun State, make Nigeria attractive to this diaspora demographic. I love your thoughts on this.
And there are two more, maybe three more things that I wanted to mention.
Carry on,
diaspora is always local, right? When you meet a person abroad, the first connection that you make, are you from Nigeria? I'm from Nigeria. Oh, we're friends, we're brothers, right? But when you really become serious about investments and about doing something, what the diaspora wants to do is something for the place where they were born.
Ooh, wow.
For the school that they went
to, yes.
For the streets that they spent their youth on.
Formative years in, yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
That particular street, which never had, was never paved, this person will contribute to make it paved.
Diaspora is local.
That road, not all the others in the entire country. Yes, just maybe to a certain degree,
that particular one.
But if you really want to move them, do that. Like, imagine a guy from Kano, right? He's in New York and he's entering a shop and he sees two watermelons. One local one that sells for $1 and one from Kano that sells for $5. Which one will he buy? The one from Kano.
Yes,
because it's from his.
He remembers. It brings memories. It brings experiences. That
exactly.
Yes,
those $4. That's $4 that he's paying. In surplus. Is called a kind of a nostalgic discount, a diaspora discount, right? Now, this money can be inverted. He might be, or she might be, open to the idea of investing back to his place without any interest. This is his diaspora discount. This is the discount that he's giving back. But he's ready to do a lot of things, be it money or knowledge, just because it's their own thing, right? Correct. So I think this is what we have to remember very well. And when we talk about Lagos diaspora, right? When we talk about investments, sustainable economic investments, we have to know how to target very well, right? Those people who were born here.
So how do we target very well?
And then how do we attract their attention?
Attract their attention.
Yes, like in Nigeria, what is a little bit different from other countries in which I go. Sometimes I get messages from people just saying, I'm just writing to check on you. Nothing more, right? Just asking, how is your family? How are your kids? And I think it's very beautiful. Now, are we doing the same to diaspora?
Wow.
Have we ever asked, how are their kids? Are they still speaking Yoruba or Hausa? Or all the other, Nigerian languages.
Wow.
Have we ever asked what's happening to their cultural, heritage, their education? Have we ever asked them don't you want to come back to Nigeria for a week and see all the nice places and reconnect with your cultural heritage? Have we ever done this?
This is deep. This is very, very deep.
So, because this is how you guys do here, right? You first ask these questions,
yes,
and then you start talking about investments. Have we done this part, or did we jump right into the money?
The hard money rather than touching the soft part.
So, see, I think this is how we get to know people.
Wow!
This
so
is
you
how we get
to know the diaspora, understand them, feel them, understand their experiences.
And very important, give. If you want to receive, learn to give first.
Powerful.
Learn to invest. If you want investments,
invest in them.
Yes, invest in them.
And I must say, from listening to you now, I'm just thinking of simple ideas. You mentioned about their children. Are they still learning Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa? What about the government just sponsoring a virtual weekly program, whereby we can actually bring Yoruba speakers to teach the diaspora, their children, and they will tune in, because once they see you are adding value to them, you're touching their heart, which is their children, they'll be more willing to even bring their children ultimately to come and see the land which they are learning the language of. So it's like a connection. You touch the heart, you will move the hands of the diaspora. So I believe this is really, really good. This is a different approach, and I believe I'm excited to hear this, and I believe many people out there, different diaspora focal point leaders, are also listening, and they will have a new approach towards engaging the diaspora. Please tell us more.
And well, I think it's not something new, really. I'm sure these things are already happening in the diaspora. I'm sure, because Nigeria is also very religious, right? And diaspora education sometimes, or it starts from the religious education. So I wouldn't be surprised if, a lot of people in diaspora, when they go to the Sunday mass, they actually leave their children a little bit there and they have a couple of lessons or something happening. So we don't even have to reinvent the wheel. If we dig deeper a little bit into the experience of what's already happened, we can learn from it and just help it more. If they already do something, they already know what works, what doesn't in diaspora. Learn from them, make a curriculum out of that, print it in 100 million copies, give it back. Maybe less, but still, help with publications, help with books, help with the online engagement that you were talking about. Maybe different other engagements, but they have to be, again, substantial, and they have to be consistent. If we're doing a program, right, by which we invite, let's say, 1,000 children from diaspora who maybe were born from Nigerian parents, but they've never been to Nigeria before, right? Let's give them the right to visit Nigeria, paid by the Nigerian government or by the Lagos government.
Absolutely.
1 week, not a lot, but 1 week, so intensive, so good, so full of all the big. Because you will win back though. Yeah, you will win back those 1,000 people. Because otherwise, they almost forgot that they are Nigerians.
True.
Unfortunately, they are so much under the pressure of being American, being British, being
identity,
being something else, and they have to choose an identity, right? And if we don't help them to keep the Nigerian one.
Yeah, they'll just say they are from New York or from London or Madrid, as many people say. Are you Nigerian? No, my mom or dad is from Nigeria. I'm from South London. And you're like wondering, it's true because UK, South London has given to them more than apparently Nigeria has. So they have that connection. And just to buttress the point you've made is that they're not only going to see the benefits right now by bringing them in. Those young people in the next 20 years, they will be the CEO of corporations. They will have so much resources. And that our little investment of, let's say, $1,000, 1,000 pounds, bringing them back will turn into £1 million in under 10, 15 years. So you're absolutely right about this direction of thinking and approach towards the diaspora.
And I think just in complementing what I was saying, my feeling is that very often we take the fact that they are Nigerian citizens as an obligation for them to give back. But let's look at this the other way around. Let's take this citizenship as our obligation to give them more protection, more opportunities, better connection, better heritage preservation. It's also our obligation from here to extend the hand of support to them.
They are ours.
Exactly.
We must treat them with dignity. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think if we build our diaspora policy on these premises, we have good chances of success. And then
I believe so.
There are several other things.
Yeah.
Not all the diaspora are investors. People in diaspora are as diverse as people here.
Yeah.
They are all type of people.
All type of people,
They are, I don't know, business owners, they are teachers, they are doctors, they are, you know, managers, they are this and that. Some of them, they are scammers, right?
Yeah.
You know, beggars in a difficult situation, in a
Yeah.
complicated
Some are
situation.
into charity, a lot of fields of endeavor.
Some of them
Yes.
are very successful. Some
Yes.
of them are less so. And so if we want to capture those, you have to give them as many opportunities. You cannot just build one corridor for the investment.
Wow, true.
It will be very narrow, not so many people. You have to create multiple. You have to create so that you can capture
platforms to capture the different demographics to come back.
To cater to different type of people, because many of them, they want to help, but what they can give back is different. What they know what to do is different from, you know, the other one.
Because you may be telling someone donate $1 million to buy land or to do something, and them telling you that, oh no, but I only have 20 beds in my hospital that they want to give away. Someone is saying, oh, I work in this charity and we can mobilize some relief for your people in grains or whatever. So it's not just one size fits all. I love that. You need to create different opportunities to attract different types of investors, either the social or the financial, you know, or even the cultural investor, people who are giving towards giving back. Very true.
Exactly. And I think, like, we are all motivated to do, for example, in investment forums with diaspora as being investors, right? We always that's our first focus. But like, as I was saying before, I would focus first of all as diaspora being ambassadors. The investors that they can bring are much bigger.
Yes.
And these guys, the Nigerians in Italy, in Great Britain, in US, they know both markets. They know what Nigeria can give, but they also know Italy, know US. They are the best, not language translator. They are best cultural translator. They are best business translator, right? They can, and they can be very, very fair and sincere, actually. They would go to the investor and say, look, this is not the easiest market. There are risks, security, energy, you know, this and that and that. There are challenges, different kind, but it's also a high return market. It's also, you know, opportunities, serious opportunities. So if we do this and that and that and that, and by the way, Nigeria just opened this desk to protect us, to help us, to work with us,
a lot will happen. And the foreign investor will actually be able to relate with that our ambassador, that's Nigerian there, better than just seeing a publication or from the government that it doesn't have any connection with. So it's very true. See them as ambassadors, treat them like ambassadors, so that we can reap a lot of benefit, and also premised on the fact that we are giving them a lot of value. And I really love that, because, you know, you think, oh, one Nigerian neurosurgeon in America or in England, but that one neurosurgeon knows 10 other neurosurgeons, you know, that he can link up with to run a charitable clinic or investment, or build a hospital for neurosurgery in Nigeria with the combination of efforts of everyone. So I love that that thought process.
He knows other 10, but he also smokes cigar with the principal of the hospital.
You see, yeah,
and with the chairman of the board. So
correct. A lot of connections, a lot of network. Yes,
exactly.
So we have been looking at the financial capital they bring, or the investment, but now we should start tapping into the social, the cultural, the business, you know, all those other capitals that could complement and also help in economic, or should I say sustainable economic growth in Lagos and Abuja, or actually Nigeria. So I believe the major thing here is sustainability, you know, and once you see it not just as one-off event, but as a process, something you must sow a seed and it will grow into a big tree that would bring forth big fruits in the future. That's the sustainability part of our engagement with the diaspora. It must be sustainable, as you said, and it must be consistent. I believe you have shared so many dynamic and mind-changing, paradigm-shifting ideas that will actually benefit Nigerian and every state that has diasporans out there, because you said diaspora relations is local. They connect to where they are from. And Lagos being a good springboard, one way or the other, I believe we in Lagos can benefit because, as you said earlier, they always connect to Lagos before they connect to the rest of the world. So we can draw from their affinity. Is there any other final point you'd like to share? Because you've shared so much with us today, and I really appreciate your time. I don't want to take any much more of it, but I'm sure myself and the viewers were enjoying your discussions.
Well, I guess maybe the last thing is I'm really a big believer in the fact that we have to invest as much as possible in building the corridors by which we can capture the support from the diaspora.
Wow.
There is a lot of need here, and there is a lot of resources and opportunities out there. Now, there is an ocean between them, right? So they will never get here just because there is nothing connecting these two.
No bridge,
so how do we connect?
Corridor.
How do we connect it? How do we make it happen? Like, for example, I'm looking also at the emergency situations happening here, the floods, right? The different now situations
people, yes,
that are becoming more and more intense and happening more often, also because of the climate change.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because of the insecurity situation, economic
Correct.
situation, right? Would there be people there who would be willing to support? Yes. Now, but how do we capture this support?
Wow.
If they want to help, what do? They don't know. They're confused. I mean, what can they trust? I think that's an important word. Maybe the last word that I want to put on the table. In the government-diaspora relationship, be it on investments, on charity, or anything, in fact, the one single most important notion that we have to build, both contributing, and I think on this side, we have to be the first investing into that, is trust. Because this is what we're building together. If we are building trust, everything else will come very easy. So the fundament, if you want, the building block that we are trying to put together now, and I think where we have to really focus is trust.
Wow. That's amazing. A good place to end. I love what you said about, we need to build the corridors, build the bridges between the diaspora and their home nation. And the foundation of that bridge should be trust. Thank you so much, Mr. Victor Lutenco. We appreciate your insightful contributions, not just only to this program, but to the whole diaspora, economic, academic, and also cultural, and also business ecosystem, because it is going to really kickstart a lot of discussions on how we've really been engaging our diaspora and how the diaspora has actually been engaging with Nigeria and Lagos in particular. I thank you so much for this insights. Guys, I'm sure you are excited. You are as informed as I have been. And all what Mr. Victor Lutenco has shared has been an inspiration to you. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate your time on this program.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a big pleasure to be here. And please count on me for whatever initiatives we'll be doing here in Lagos or anywhere in Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Definitely, we will be doing such. Really appreciate your time. And guys, I'm going to sign out right now. Thanks a lot for watching. Let's Talk Diaspora podcast. Make sure you visit my website, jermainesonwolu.com, and follow me at Jermaine Sonwolu on all my social media platforms. I'm sure you can also follow Mr. Victor too. Do you want to share your social media handle, sir?
there are not so many Victor Lutenco.
Okay, yeah. So just follow at Victor Lutenco. You know, he works with the IMO, International Organization of Migration. Is the head of the sub office here in Nigeria, in Lagos, and he's doing a lot of great work. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned, JermaineSanwo-Olu.com. Follow me for more.